Good afternoon. Welcome back from your lunch. We are moving into the third session for the day. I know we already have people online whom unfortunately we can't see, but I'm sure there's a John, Philip, Mary, Catherine, all of you there online. Welcome to our third session.
Even Frederick is here.
Our chair for this session, just before the chair, the topic will be business opportunities and challenges for startups. And our presenter will be introduced by the chair is Mr. Isaac Nsereko. Our chair is CPA Pamela Asingwire, who is engaged to Mr. Cruzisa Ronald. And they have one handsome son so far. I remember the previous chairman for the last session said he had 7 children. So Pamela, I hope you have 6 to go.
Challenge accepted.
She has worked with the Civil Aviation Authority for the past 11 years. That should be since 2009, where she has risen to the position of Principal Accountant Verification. She holds a master's degree in Business Administration from Heriot-Watt University of the UK. She's a member of ICPAU and ACCA, and she did her first degree in Bachelor of Commerce from Makerere University. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our chairperson for the day. I'll hand over the reins to our able hands. For those still out there, please come in quickly. I love to call this the Valium shift because sleep is going to come in all forms. But I trust since you watched what we ate at lunch, very little carbohydrates, most of us will be awake. In case it fails, we shall find how to stretch, but I trust our presenter is going to keep us awake. So Pamela, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Fellow CPAs, good afternoon to everyone, protocol observed. Let me take this median opportunity to thank ICPAU for giving me a chance to chair this very last session for the 25th annual seminar. Today afternoon, we have a very pertinent topic, business opportunities and challenges for startups. And we have no other better person to present to us other than Mr. Nsereko Isaac. Isaac is a happily married man to a beautiful lady called Teddy, and they have 3 lovely boys. He's an experienced entrepreneur, a business executive with a background in pharmacy and specialty in marketing. He has commercial interest, mainly in logistics and international trade. His business executive experience covers telecommunications, banking, and pharmaceuticals. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a pharmacist going to talk to us accountants about business. Guess you can see where my excitement is coming from. He once served as the Chief Marketing Officer for MTN Uganda, where his key achievement was the MTN mobile money. I'm sure most of us have used this service. And well, he was the project sponsor and chief promoter from the beginning to the 3 years after its launch. He was also the first head of retail at DFCU Bank, and his main achievement was to do with the expansion of the branch network and launch of several new services. Currently, he's a managing director of DT Logistics, which focuses on the Mombasa-Kampala route and serves some blue chip companies such as Crown Beverages, Olam Uganda, Olam International, to mention but a few. He is the shareholders representative and founding managing director of DT Logistics. He also serves on several other boards, such as RI Distributors, which is a leading importer and re-exporter of sugar, vegetable oil, and rice. He is a shareholder and managing director at RI Distributors. At Case Hospital, he serves as the chairman of the Human Resource Committee, and he also serves as the board of MetaPlus as the pharmacist director. MetaPlus is a leading importer and distributor of human medicines. He holds an MBA from Bradford University of Management, has a postgraduate diploma in marketing from Chartered Institute of Marketing of the UK. He is also a graduate of Makerere Pharmacy School. Fellow CPAs, join me as I welcome Isaac to make his presentation to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela, for the introduction. And thank you, CPAs, for the invitation, for the opportunity of a lifetime. I don't take this for granted. First and foremost, really, allow me to do the Kalanga first. For the last 7 years, you've carried some beautiful bags in every conference, right? Anyone with them here? We have been supplying those bags for the last 7 years to you. And thank you very much for the opportunity and the umbrellas, the beautiful umbrellas in one of our businesses. But really, it's an opportunity of a lifetime because I was pretty surprised when I got a call from CPA to come and speak to you, because what can I tell you? I mean, the closest I've been to an accounting class was in my S2, I think, and I couldn't tell a debit from a credit. And then I decided to do science, so all the way to university. But anyway, before I go any further, I want to tell this real life story that a lady, a very, very respected lady, went to see her doctor. And after all the reviews and the laboratory work, she was told that she had got 6 months to live. And she said, "Oh my God, what should I do?" The doctor looked at her and looked back and said, "Marry an accountant." And she said, "Why? Would that make me live longer?" And the doctor said, "No, but it will seem longer." Okay. Thank you very much. It's really a wonderful opportunity to speak about business. I'm very, very passionate about business. I tried to run away from business, but really, I guess business was always chasing me. So after pharmacy school, I took a sales job as an executive of a large American company, and they introduced me to business. And the more I got involved with business, the more I loved it. So it has been my pleasure to be a business person for the last about 20 years. So I'm going to speak about so I can stay presentation. Thank you. So really, I'm going to talk about some introduction things about business, which you already know, most of it. But I was intrigued about the theme, value preservation and value creation. And as a student of strategy, I really have a fascination with value creation, because at the end of the day, that's what business is about. So I look at some business opportunities during and well after the pandemic, and then the startup story, which is really the passion. And I guess that's what you would like me to focus on. And then some final thoughts on the issues. I found this slide. I hope that people can see it. And it really reflects the battles that leaderships have got dealing with the pandemic. On the one extreme end, so I can see the pointer. on the extreme right, you see those choices that you have to make. Do you choose business? In other words, so this is a very busy slide, but really the summary of it is that when COVID hit, countries, leaderships had two choices. Do you prioritize life or livelihoods? In other words, health or the economy? And a very difficult choice. And we saw it here at the beginning. You know, we thought we would hide and we went all under. But on the extreme right, you will see that China leads that pack. China somehow seems to have fun. This is from a very respected newspaper, the Financial Times, the other day on the 25th. They came up with this matrix. So at the bottom of it is the economic growth, and most countries are in negative. And I think yesterday we saw some numbers from the UK. The UK economy is forecast to shrink by 11%. It has not happened in the last 300 years. So at the bottom is the economy, and on the y-axis is the number of deaths due to COVID. And either countries that you can see, the likes of Germany, Italy, and a bit of Peru, they've overemphasized life. And even then they still lose. Okay, and we know that ultimately you can try and keep people indoors, but they have to go out. And on the other extreme right, you see the South Koreas and the China, who seem to have sort of got a good balance of both. And I think these are the ones that are obviously less, they don't play too much to the gallery. These are countries that are very autocratic and the leadership decides. But if you look at the countries that have really, really suffered, initially they thought they would sacrifice the economy. In the end, they had to stop hiding and go back to work. And when they went back to work, they found that, you know, the pandemic was waiting and it just ravaged them, and they were not even ready. So this is really like a preamble. It's not a choice that is easy for our leaders, and I think we must understand that. Now I was doing the background check to say, okay, we can count, I think by yesterday, 1.3 million lives sadly already lost. And that's a human cost. But what is the economic cost? And I found this very intriguing again in the Financial Times of 25th November, that approximately $96 trillion of value has been destroyed or will be destroyed by the pandemic. And there was a comparison somewhere in this article, which I recommend you look. Compare that to the 2008 financial crisis, and this one is likely to be 4 times bigger than that. So I think in terms of setting the perspective, so before we go to the business, this is unprecedented. Certainly it is not something that anyone knows how to deal with. And I think whereas we can look forward to a vaccine, we're not sure how we will deal with the economic fallout of this particular thing. So really to recap the issues that I've just spoken about, one is that the global cost of the pandemic at 96 trillion is 4 times the financial crisis. And we thought the financial crisis was bad. It brought the world nearly to its knees. And again, early estimates of when the recovery will take shape is, again, credible sources like the Financial Times, they put this around 2022. So about 2 years away from now. For the health crisis, help is on the way. Clearly, we can see that at some stage next year, there will be a vaccine, or optimists will put it this year. An effective and safe vaccine is coming from Pfizer, who, by the way, was my first employer, and I was involved a little bit in their vaccine business. and Moderna. These are very close to the finishing line. Anytime they will get the Foods and Drugs Administration approval, and they will be given. There's more on the horizon, a company called AstraZeneca, and in partnership with Oxford University, they've got a wonderful vaccine that they've been talking about. It's been challenged, by some of their peers. But clearly, in a not too distant future, we're going to have something of a solution to the health crisis. What is not clear is a solution for the economic crisis. And there's even no consensus on how to deal with this issue. So a global economic stimuli, for example, who will pay for it when those who traditionally pay will also be in dire need of it? And the economies are ravaged. So it seems to me that every business, every country is going to have to figure out how to survive. Really, this is the takeout. I saw that in the Chancellor of the Exchequer's speech the other day, that the first target area he wants to save money is on aid. So those of us who are balancing our budgets with some aid, obviously, are going to take a bit of a hit. So that really is in terms of the context. But on the upside, we've seen that the pandemic has accelerated certain trends for commerce, digitization, everything. I mean, there is, 100 of you here and 500 outside, right? Attending this conference. And this really is what I'm talking about here. Online shopping, the most valued companies at this point are some of those, Amazon and the like. So you have online shopping taking root, remote working. It's very, very obvious that most people now, certainly in the Western world, want to work from home, or they have a choice to work from home or to work from the office. But also the pandemic has helped to reveal the resilient businesses in terms of sectors. So you can see technology, and I'll come back a little later on that. Technology businesses have definitely, their valuations are going out of the roof. Zoom particularly, and all these new, very friendly to mobile phone usage have benefited. Healthcare, a bit battered, but at the end of the day, it's a very resilient business. Food, and I'll come back to these sectors: retail, security, logistics, financial services, and of course there've been some COVID startups. So if you look here, a lot of people have taken the advantage of the masks and are making them from everywhere. Sanitizers and test kits. These are the big things that the pandemic has brought out. So let's just go quickly to value. So when you look at the history of value, and this you come to see, I think the numbers are not so clear, but if you look to the left, in 1960, if you look at the top 20 companies in the world by asset value, that list is full of two sectors: oil and heavy engineering. So ExxonMobil, General Motors, US Steel, Ford Motors, Gulf Oil, Texaco, DuPont, Chevron, General Electric, Shell, and IBM. 50 years later, on the right, what do you see? Again, I took top 13. Saudi Aramco, which is the investment arm of Saudi Arabia, where oil money has been pumped. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Facebook, Alibaba, Tencent. Berkshire Hathaway is a very diversified business. Johnson & Johnson is the only pharma there. Visa, Walmart is a retailer, and Nestle. And really the take home is that back then, 50 years ago, value lied in oil and heavy engineering. And this is an easy as a group. In terms, when I say we, I mean the Sub-Saharan Africa and a bit of Asia. That's Asia is caught up now. China has a lot of technology investments. But this is the future. There's no running away. So I didn't want to come here and talk to you about the easy things. We all do, buy a matatu and start a shop. But I really want us to be challenged to say, if this is where the value is, what can I do in that space that is meaningful? Okay. So, again, another busy slide. But if you look, the key trends that really I want to lay as a foundation for some of my thoughts on how to invest, because I was told when I was invited that this session is really to challenge the ICPAU membership to think about starting businesses and investing and to take you out of the comfort zone of risk and show you some opportunities that you either do yourselves or partner with people, but to really, so I wanted to really spend some time on this, the way I see it. And this is in the context of East Africa, but I took the Uganda case as one case. So if you look at Uganda, what do we have? At 3.7% per annum, we have one of the fastest growing populations in the world. And of course, there are some challenges that come with it. The upside is that for a lot of products, that's a big market. And the projections are, I think by 2050, it will be 100 million, just Uganda. And what you see here in Uganda happens in Rwanda a bit, and Congo and Southern Sudan. And this is the World Bank report of 2018. And then a very, very rapid urbanization. At the base is small. We are generally a low urbanization country, but at 6%, I guess those of us who live in Kampala, you feel the congestion. At 6%, we are way above the sub-Saharan average of 4.1. Again, World Bank 2018. And again, that comes with challenges of congestion, of crime, but there are opportunities that come with that in terms of, if you think, low-cost housing, because they're going to need somewhere to sleep. Internet usage. Connectivity is faster, the devices are cheaper, and the service itself is relatively cheaper. So at 27% use of personal internet services as of 2017, that creates a base for you to start to think about digital services. A low penetration of financial services. By this, we mean the traditional, certainly exclude the mobile monies of this world. But if you look at the traditional mobile financial services, the penetration is low. And the traditional model will not, in my opinion, be able to drive this because it's cost-laden with branches and heavy investment in technology. Digitization of financial services, especially the mobile money and the agent banking opportunity, that creates a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities for people, especially people who know how to look after money, like yourselves. Oil and gas, if you read the local content provisions in our law, it is, what's the word? The opportunity we have as local investors is huge. A lot of sectors have been protected, ring-fenced for us. And we can complain that, perhaps are not going to be doing the big projects, but there is, in the next, let's say 3 years, I see there is about $20 billion that will be invested in infrastructure. And if you look at one section like logistics, it's going to be about $8 billion. So and that is pretty much ring-fenced. So these are the key trends that I want you to keep at the back of your mind as we try and explore what can be done. So the investment opportunities, food, any part of the value chain. With 100 million Ugandans, definitely any foodstuffs you have will be sold. But I think in terms of the real opportunities, and I am in no particular order recommending, but distribution. Distribution is an easy to set up business. It is easy to finance, and it is easy to scale. Because once you've got a distribution infrastructure, let's say for water, you can on the top of that put many other things. Exports, The global population is hitting 8 billion people, and Uganda is gifted by nature. So we can definitely play a part in the export of agricultural commodities. And restaurants, and here I mean really restaurant chains. I'm not recommending that one opens a restaurant, you go and sit there, but I'm thinking in terms of distribution points for restaurant chains. Healthcare. Certainly a growing population will need to be looked after. And I'm talking again about the value chain from your professionally run, first point of contact near your residence, a clinic. There's nothing that stops an accountant from partnering with a doctor to start a clinic. I think that clinic will actually be more successful. All the way to a pharmacy chain, to health clubs, because again, for healthcare doesn't mean that when you're sick, you spend money. It's better to spend money before you're sick. FMCG, fast moving consumer goods. All this feeds off the high population growth and high urbanization. And either you manufacture, again, you can distribute. All these are opportunities. Education, definitely a huge opportunity. And I think ICPAU does a wonderful job training Ugandans to become good accountants. But I think in terms of a mix of online and offline, but certainly when you look at the opportunities that this pandemic has revealed, is that actually you don't have to sit in a classroom to gain skills. And I hope this link will work. Does this computer have internet? Okay, let me just put up this link, just to explain the point. Sorry, Acrobat does not allow connection to McKinsey. But this is the McKinsey survey. This came out this week, actually, in McKinsey. And the summary is that they had a workshop where people came like you've done, and others stayed home. And they tried to compare the difference in terms of the takeout and how people enjoyed and whether they achieved the skills. And across all the sections of whether you learned the concepts, whether you feel that you have got value for your money, more than 90% of those who were offline were as satisfied as those who attended. What does that say? That as a training institution. Sorry? Yeah. Really, my takeout here is that once you've got content, good content, you can monetize it many times online. Okay, so here, this is what it is. So employees give virtual learning an A for effectiveness. Just scroll it up a bit. So here, really the question is that learners agree that virtual workshop work. On the first one is, if you can blow it up a bit. So the first issue was the virtual experience was delivered effectively. 45% strongly agree, and 52% agree. So that's again 97. The second parameter was, I was able to effectively learn concepts, practices, skills through the virtual experience. 50 strongly agree, 45 agree, and so on and so forth. There is really the takeout. There's effectively, and you can say these are fairly younger people, and that might be right. There is no significant difference, sadly, and I think sadly or fortunately, it depends on whether you're here or you're attending ICPAU from the comfort of your home. In you being here, it is as good as you sitting in your office. The opportunity with that is that once you've got content, you can monetize. You can have students here, students in Congo, students in Juba, they can get online and get their ICPAU and whatever other skill you want to pass on. Thank you. Real estate, certainly, with those numbers and urbanization, I think the real deal is in low cost. The opportunity is definitely in low cost volumes, but decent accommodation. Also in commercial real estate, especially in the upcoming suburbs, you know, where the land is still fairly affordable, and you've got quite a big chunk of land, so you don't have to do too many floors. Fintech, certainly. We've seen the basic, of course, some of the most successful fintechs are, you know, what we see now as the space of mobile money, but there are many, many other spaces in payments, in microcredit, in that area where there is a convergence between technology and financial services. In that space, there must be things that you can do that are scalable. Retail, obviously. Retail from a one shop, 2 shops, 10 shops, to online, where you set up a group of young people delivering motorbikes and you can distribute groceries to a certain client base. And of course, professional services. And I think in terms of this area now, you look to, you could do a lot of things, from having clients you've never met online to a combination of online and offline services. Sorry, my technology skills are quite lacking. Who's heard about Bitcoin? Can I see by a show of hands? Everybody has. Okay, thank you very much. Who has invested? Not to embarrass anyone. Is this like the wrong forum to ask? Can I take this jacket off? Thank you. So this is my personal story. In the year 2015, at the time I was starting RI Distributors, a friend of mine lives in the US, phoned me up and said, you know, this is the next big thing. And at that time, 1 Bitcoin was equal to $1. And I put money in sugar and rice and cooking oil because I could understand it. If I had put this money here in Bitcoin, at $1 equals 1 Bitcoin, today Bitcoin, or the other day, Bitcoin almost hit 1 Bitcoin, $20,000. How many of you are like me? You almost invested, but not quite. Yeah, you know, because of course we are accountants, we are risk averse. But do you know some of the people who took, let's say, do the maths? If somebody put $100,000 in Bitcoin, at 1 Bitcoin equal was $1, at $20,000, how much money do they have? They perhaps don't need to wake up and go to work. And of course, there have been ups and downs, but if you do the line of best fit, what is the trend? Is upward. And what really has shocked me now is that in this article, the main point for me is that Bitcoin rallied to a new record high on Wednesday this week, smashing it through its 2017 peak. This is again the Financial Times of the other day. And beyond the reason, rising interest from professional investors and banks, fund managers. So the question is it going to replace the dollar? Maybe not. But have we missed the opportunity to make money? Certainly I have. And how many of these are, and Bitcoin is just one version of the crypto. Again, it's knowledge, it is risk appetite. Okay, so a bit of the background. So let me just go to the subject for which you invited me. Sorry, there's a version that is not here. Is the other version, Ambrose? The last version of this, you have it? Okay, so really these are my thoughts, but I've got my personal story and I'd like them to put it up, because what I'm telling you is not lecture stuff. This is stuff I have lived with for certainly the last 18 years since I started my first company, which supplies those bags. But when I really look at the keys, the challenges that make us, and you know the statistics that Uganda has, one of the best statistics for starting up companies, but also one of the worst for not making their first birthday or first anniversary. And the one common thing I see, and definitely is, is the reason for people paying. In marketing, we call it the value proposition. What am I paying for? So when we all start companies, we often get excited and we think we've got a wonderful idea. But very, very often, what we have is very similar to everything else that is in the market. And then we invest all our money, our savings, and everybody else's money, only to find that actually there was no reason to buy. You didn't have anything that is really unique. This is a very common error, and I think it is one. Again, my experience in trading, I see that when I look back to when we started this bags business in 2002, we were about 2 importers, and today there is a whole building. I've seen some of you pass by my shop. A whole building called Galilaya Commercial Plaza, about 4 floors. It is full of bags, right? And what is the reason? Why should anyone go to that shop? Because they know they most likely are picking them from one of us who are importing. So this is the common thing. Before you jump from your job to go and start this business, really answer yourself and the question of whether what you have is serious enough for somebody to pay. In other words, you have a differentiated value proposition. Okay, this is a very, very critical point. Sorry, let me get to the content. Apologies for the mix-up. The other thing that I see is that people start businesses for which they have not enough information or knowledge of how the business makes money or loses money. Again, it is similar to the first point, but it's slightly different. So you might have a good idea, but actually you haven't understood the fundamentals of that business. You're seeing the product, you're seeing customers, but you're not seeing the value chain. You're not seeing the risks. So I call this the knowledge or skills gap. Knowledge about the market, knowledge about the product. Yeah. Okay, so really in other words, the preparation, what I'm talking about here is the preparation. You see something, you don't do enough research and you start it. Obviously, it's going to fail because there are many things you do not know. So let me just go back to my story with startups. And I've had the opportunity, I've had the privilege of working for some very big companies. So you would say that I'm not maybe a typical entrepreneur because somebody paid my school fees. I made so many mistakes, at MTN paid, at the pharmaceutical companies and in the banks. But really my story goes back to 2002. And I've chosen these 3 companies because I have invested my own money and time, and they're still going concerns. So I'll tell you this, a bit of the stories about them because I was there from the beginning. So in 2002, I borrowed money. Is my friend Richard Garugaba here? From Richard, I walked to Richard Garugaba. I'd just come back from my MBA, and he knew me. I'd gone to school with his brother. He was running Nile Bank. He gave me the equivalent of $10,000 to start DT Bag. So Richard, I owe you if you're out there in the audience. And I put this money with a partner. I partnered with my brother, and we started it. And I was there to see it from the beginning. In this particular business, what made it work, we had an experienced person who helped us to set up the business. And of course, we had Richard to give us the money. And we had a capable family member who has been involved from the very, very beginning, and that's my wife. She's been running the business from 2002 to this day. And then we pulled money together, with some partners. And of course, we made some mistakes. We started off selling handbags, and then we realized that ladies don't want to see somebody else with the same handbag they have. So we quickly abandoned the highly fashion business, although my wife has gone back to it now. But because you bring stock from China, 2 months on the sea, it gets here. When you bought it, you thought everybody wanted it. When it comes here, no one wants it. Okay, so we defaulted on timeless classics, school bags, conference bags. I don't know how many times we've given you slightly different version of the same bag. But because we do the slight modifications, a professional bag doesn't change that much. And it's fairly, easy to maintain. We design for you, by the way. We sit with the team at the ICPAU every year. We compete, we show them different designs, and we send this design to the factory and we make it for you. But generally speaking, we learned our lessons. We were there from the beginning. We lost money, but the business has been going for 18 years, and it's given birth to some of our other businesses. Allied distributors, we import and export commodities, sugar, rice, cooking oil, since 2014. Why is it succeeding? Because I've been there from the beginning. And we partnered with an experienced a friend of ours who's been in the business about 20 years. And we've known the person, and we've got chemistry. We can trust each other. And again, we pulled money, and we've leveraged our networks, whether getting suppliers or financials. Again, this for me is a common theme that you will see, that successful businesses, the owner sits there. Most times they will partner with somebody who knows. And then the last one I want to talk about is DT Logistics, which is a long distance haulage service. We currently run about 50 trucks between Kampala and Mombasa. This we started in 2016. What makes it work? Because we have our own cargo that we have to transport, so it's a backward integration story a bit. But that's not enough, because it's a totally different business, different balance sheet, different P&L. But I've been involved from the beginning. When we decided to do this business, I bought 2 trucks, UAZ 540T and UAZ 522T. And I picked them. I almost became the driver, but I knew everything. I knew nothing at the beginning, and after 2 years of running only these 2 trucks, I had learned a few things. We made our mistakes, certainly when we look back. But we did this as an experiment so that if it was going to fail, we would fail with 2. Suddenly now at 50, if we fail, it would be a disaster. A friend provided a corporate guarantee because as a startup, no one would lend us money. But because they knew us, they knew our character, our character, they could trust us. So these are and I have started many, and I'm going to show you some of the others that didn't work. These are the ones that have worked. And I tried to count when I was doing this presentation. I stopped at about 20 of them where I have been involved, lost money. So the ones that are no longer going concern, one particular one, they told you I'm a pharmacist. I graduated, I was out of pharmacy school. So when I made my first money, the first investment I made was a pharmacy, naturally. Well located, my friend owned the premises next to Mulago Hospital, and I thought we had hit the gold mine. So we put money in there in 2003. We gave it a nice name, QualiServe, nice color, nice logos. It is not there anymore. Why did it fail? In my opinion, me and my partner were absent. My partner was a lecturer at the medical school. I was a young executive in the bank, and I went there on my way home. And really what happened is that the service could not cope. We left it with young people. The stock pilferage was absolutely out of this world. You'd find empty boxes with no tablets. And the washout, if you're lucky, they'll sell the same tablet and buy another one. They're being kind to you. The margin is gone, right? But they've kept, if they are good people, in quotes, they'll live there. So this is QualiServe. We sold it to another person and it became a huge success because that person sat in the pharmacy. Again, it's choice. I was involved in 2013 in another project, a fairly medium-sized mixed-use real estate, sitting on 9 acres of lakefront land in Luzira. And we scoped it out. It looked very nice on paper, but it didn't take off. When I reflect, we were too ambitious. We were 3 partners, and none of us was full-time. But we wanted to invest north of $10 million of mostly other people's money. We could not raise enough funds in time. And while we were, in that situation, some of my partners and myself included, we found other opportunities. So because money can't sit on an account waiting to go somewhere. So fortunately for this particular project, we didn't lose money. Again, as most of the land-based investments, you rarely lose money. We were able to sell the project to somebody else and made some money. And there are many. I didn't want to list 20 of them, but my last one is DT Jeans, which we started around 2012. We thought we had learned the game of trading, having traded for almost 10 years at that time in the bags business. And we went into men's fashion. And really, when I reflect back, we had learned nothing from the women bags experiment, because this is another one of those. Why did it not work? It's a very, very crowded space. And the designs are too fast. By the time you get here with your product, it's changed. And the price was, there's not enough margin to pay the bills. So these are some of the experiments that I have been involved, and there are many others that I couldn't put here. So taking from there, I think just then to recap is, every time you look at a business that you want to start, really ask yourself the question, is this another copycat of some successful product? Because if it is, chances are this won't go far, unless you can show the value you're creating. The second issue, and you can see from my own experience, is the skills and knowledge gap. Do you understand, or any of your partners, do they understand that market? The product category, the business basics, the fundamentals, the risks, the supply chain. Often you will underestimate competition. Please don't. When you're putting your money, your life saving in a business, assume the worst. because the competition is going to come at you with all they've got. And you wouldn't have thought through how to deal with it. The other challenge, naturally, of course, is funding. And this is a difficult challenge, but it's one you can certainly, as members of ICPAU, you have enough networks in the market to know how to raise money. But money is always going to be limited to a few options: your own savings, your family and friends. And no matter how much money you were able to raise, it's always going to be, in my opinion, grossly inadequate. Just make sure that it takes you out of startup stage, which is past 3 years. I mean, every time you go to the bank, they want 3-year audited accounts, right? So make sure you have enough money to go for 3 years. But there are also characteristics of really planning issues that I've spoken about. One, the projections are always going to be, and I don't know whether in projections the accountants are conveniently left out, but every time you look at a business plan, the projections are going to be very optimistic. And that is really a recipe for disaster. And for some reason, every business plan I have seen, the business makes money in the first year, at the start of it. But I'm yet to see one that, in my experience as in the bank, that actually delivers their business plan as drafted. Most people will underestimate the risk. Competition risk is one of them, but risks like I've talked about, subtle risks like pilferage, poor service. Often the business plan is scanty on the important details, and that's really the message. And if you're not there, then you've written a business plan, you put money and you give it to somebody else. They remain scanty, and before you know, everything is gone. And of course, there are execution issues. Execution issues largely around the product. You promise a huge advantage, but the product falls short of the one that you envisaged. This is a big risk. Or the key talent that promised you we will join. You start that company, Isaac, I'm going to come and be your chief accountant. And when you call them 3 months later, they don't want to pick your call because now they are scared. Okay, what happens if that key talent was really the one that is going to do your finance? Do you have in your business plan money to hire from the market? Some promised funds may delay or never be received, as now projected, so the one in New Zealand. Something will go wrong with a startup. Really, that's the best, the most fundamental. And you ignore scenario planning at your own risk. You really need to think through what is the worst that can happen? How would I respond? Some ways to mitigate risk. Product testing can mitigate the risk. Of course, you do product testing. It's always a balancing act. And I remember my days with the MTN mobile money. We had to test with kids at night and we'll take away the phones so they don't remember the processes. But balance between keeping the project confidential and getting vital market feedback. And I mean, there've been cases of runaway success, but really, you don't want to go put your life saving without testing the concept. I would insist. Broaden your skills base among your promoters and the project team. It can help reduce the risks. Assuming the worst response, especially from competition. What is the worst that your competitor can do? Would you survive? I have heard of stories of, especially in the beverages world, not here, but I think in the region, where a startup company is about to take away the market, and the big boy goes and buys all the cases of whatever beer it is, they smash them and the bottles are gone. And that takes you back to 3 years. Whatever the investment is lost, your supply chain is disrupted, your customers go back to the old brand. I'm not suggesting that that's the ethical way to do, but what if they did that? Would you survive? Invest with others. If you forget anything else I've said, please don't forget this one. Invest with others. And I think you can see even in the accounting world, the big five would have been started by a few people, not one individual. This is the key message. I think this is what I see as one of our weakest points. Certainly in Uganda, in Kenya, it's taken root. You see a couple of people coming together to do big things. Big things, successful things are going to be done by a group of people. If your idea is good, then someone else must be willing to invest. This is the first test. Share the risk. Do not invest alone. Because at the end of the day, if you want to invest alone, maybe you're investing for lifestyle, for paying school fees, you could definitely. But here I am assuming you want to build enterprises for generations. You rarely find somebody that succeeds doing it alone. In planning, be honest with your key assumptions. It's your business, it's your money. Why are you being too optimistic? Do a best case scenario, do a worst case scenario. Assume market offtake is slower, costs are higher, margins are lower, data days are longer, access to credit is difficult, cost of funds is maybe prime +3. Could this business survive? Because if you're ready for the worst, then chances are you're going to see it through. Execution issues, be willing and ready to change. I told you the story. We went in to do handbags. We now do, for the last 17 years, school bags. We learned from the first stock that was not going to take us far. If you get stuck on why this is what the business case says, you won't be there for long. Listen to your customers, to your staff, bankers, especially bankers, because they have seen this many times. And last by no means least, preserve cash. Often, even companies that are about to succeed, the cash runs out before the break-even point. And guess what? You don't have anyone giving you money. And if you're lucky, you sell it cheap. You still walk away with very little. So my final thoughts, in terms of really, if you say the summary of it, if you're going to invest, and investing for building fairly big businesses, invest in sectors that are hot. By that I mean one of these that are enjoying high growth, a business that is scalable, and one that has good margins. Because if you do, you'll attract capital and you'll attract talent, and that's all you need for scale. The second thought is team effort. As opposed to individual effort, teams tend to win. If you look at the story of all these Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, our friends here, Quality Chemicals, the Cipla, Hewlett-Packard, the Wright brothers, you will find a partnership. Big things are built by partnership, by teams. And you know, here we are a bit obsessed with my own thing because we don't want governance. And I haven't spoken about governance because you know better than me. Often the people are darking to partner with other people, either because, of course, there is no trust, but often it is the governance shortcuts. You don't want to be accountable. But teams really will allow for a balance of skill, experience, risk appetite, so that you can moderate about some of the things you invest in. The networks, in addition to you raising more money as a team, you'll definitely raise more money. In preserving cash is again a dicey thing. First, you must raise more money than the business plan shows, and then spend less than you planned, at least on the things that you can control. This is really the bottom line. And often people will say, I'm going to be stingy, but there are things you won't control. So it starts, preserving cash starts with fundraising, to raise a bit more money than the business plan requires. And my last one is the younger people with critical skills and drive. They seem to do better. If you look at some of these, again, big companies, even when they dropped out of school, the Bill Gates, the guy, Mark Zuckerberg, because they are a bit, more, their risk appetite is higher and they've got energy and they don't have a huge lifestyle to spend. So get a lot of young people, even when you start your business. We certainly have, we've learned that when you get a lot of young people in your team, invest a bit in them, get them engaged in execution and planning. Not only will you be building a business that is going to be more scalable, but certainly one that is more sustainable because you've invested in the future of the business. So thank you very much. I hope that was a bit useful, and back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Isaac, for this enriching presentation. Our members, like we've had, let's get out of our comfort zone and start thinking about how to start a business. When you see an opportunity, grab it, go for it. Let's not always be risk averse. We all know risks can be managed. So let's get into the boat and start thinking business. Please keep those questions coming in. IT personnel. Sorry, my IT skills also lack a bit. As IT does what they do best, let me take this opportunity to thank our members who are online. COVID-19 has really impacted us, but like all our presenters have noted, it has presented many opportunities as well. Key among them being the virtual experience. Members present, let us please applaud our fellow CPAs who are attending virtually. Thank you. Isaac, we have one comment here. It comes from Twaha Kawase Chugongo. Invest with others. The moral fiber in Uganda requires a deep examination of who these others are. Will the chemistry work out? What are the pitfalls to look out for in these others? You can take on that as other questions come in.
Thank you, Haj Twaha. This is a wonderful question. I think it goes at the heart of the issue. Investing with somebody is a marriage. It takes careful thought. It is not to be entered quickly. It's one that ultimately is somebody whose word you will take. If they tell you you've lost money, you shouldn't lose your friend. It should be somebody you can trust as a minimum. And I think that really is, for me, my own experience. Where we've been successful, we've invested with the people who have like minds, people we've known for a long time, and people who would not doubt their word if the money was lost, but also people who are willing to play the governance game, because we go big on governance. Trust is good, control is better, but we start with trust.
Thank you, Isaac. Rachel Kusima says investing in salon business is such period. How viable? Please guide.
Can I pass that question? No, I think to be honest, I don't know. I don't have enough information on salon business. If you ask me, my own experience is to drop my wife at the salon once every 2 weeks. If you're charging 50,000 and you can pay your bills, but if you're able to scale it and build a chain, I see salon as a retail business. A retail business only makes money when you have multiple outlets. So you can have economies of scale on buying, and you can have the volumes. But vanity always wins. I call beauty vanity in the marketing world. People pay a lot for beauty. So if you do a good job, I think, and you can scale, it should do well. But you must be there.
Thank you, Isaac. The next question on slido.com is almost similar to what you've just answered. Would you invest in cosmetics?
any day. Not to own it because I know nothing about it, but if I had a good partner who knows it, like I said, vanity is always a good business. It should have good margins. But again, it needs to be a business that the people you're working with understand.
Thank you. Members, any more questions? There is one question. I can only see the last line. It says, what's your experience working with your wife?
Can I pass that one? Because I'm sure she's watching. I don't want to be locked up in the dog's house. No, it's a wonderful thing. Because your interests are aligned, I am assuming. If you're happily married, your interests are aligned, you're all working for the generation, for yourselves and the children. It can be difficult to know who's boss, especially when she doesn't agree. You must learn, men, you must learn to say yes. If it is not going to destroy the business, it can bring problems. You can end up having quiet times at home. But even if you don't work with your wife, I think sometimes men, those who are married, you know, you'll always have quiet times. I don't know if it's significantly more quiet times when you work together. But it's a wonderful thing because your interests are aligned.
Okay. Thank you. Obed Mperire, he says, great presentation. There is a challenge of partnering and making great things. Should we think that we are information and we shall get there, or we should do away with it? This is based on the experience that partnerships are working in mostly Kenya and Tanzania and not in Uganda. Kindly share your thoughts.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, the first bit?
Obed says there is a challenge of partnering and making great things. Should we think that we are information and we shall get there, or we should do away with it? The bit of formation of partnering. This is based on the experience that partnerships are working in mostly Kenya and Tanzania and not in Uganda.
We don't have a choice of not partnering, in my opinion. Otherwise, we'll always do small things. So, but everybody has, in your circle, there are people you know you trust. I'd think that all of us, you know, through experience, school, church, village, family, there will be people you can work with. So it has to be that you go out of your way to say, okay, I've got this wonderful idea. Who knows more than me about it, or who knows something different? Let's say I know, you know, commercial work, marketing. I need a partner that understands finance and another partner that understands human resource. If you fail to find a partner, I would say, please don't start, look some more. But again, I'm assuming you want to do something big. If you want to do something big, but you can't find somebody who believes in the idea, maybe the idea is not good enough, or maybe you're going to have to be a bit of a selling pitch. But I would hesitate to put my money alone in anything now.
Okay. Would require a reliable workforce, especially with regard to integrity, which is becoming more scarce with the millennials. What is your advice in assessing the right workforce for your startup?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer. It's a try and error. If you're there again, you will see. Background checks, look for people who have fairly, you know, clear backgrounds. After they've got the competencies and the skills, you hire. First, we check integrity. If you have any questionable issues, we don't even engage. But if you have integrity, then, or at least we have evidence that you have, then we'll take you on, but we will watch. We'll generally watch. Again, when you're starting up, you're not 100 people, you're 10. So you'll see the person who's not serious easily. They will come late, they will lie, they're sick, and when you ask for a doctor's sheet, they won't have it. They can only do that once, and then you know that you can't count on them. But we do have a serious problem. We have a skills problem. We have a lot of people who know about things and have no skill, and also people who have no integrity. So it's a very, very big issue.
One Stephen Naumba says, hello, Isaac. Where can you be found for a one-on-one chat and your contacts?
ICPAU has my contacts.
Good, good. Back to slido.com. David Selebe, you recommend investing in hot sectors. What are the dangers from this, since many people have invested through excitement? The bit of muli sente omo syndrome.
That's a good question from my good friend David. I'm not talking about Ponzi schemes. I think of course, muli sente omo is, the risk is Ponzi schemes. If you don't understand how a business makes money, don't invest. So these pyramid schemes, clearly it is, at some point, it's going to bust. I'm talking about hot sectors driven by an understanding of the trends I listed and some more. You must understand how the business makes money, how it can lose money. But in key growth sectors, as I said, if for example, today you invested in a fintech that does microloans, and is successful, and they know the risk modeling, they are able to pick people who are borrowing and have cash flows and they're able to pay. You can be sure, and you've invested with people who understand that space. You can be sure that maybe 2-3 years down the road, if you've got 1 million customers, you will walk away with a decent amount of money. Ponzi schemes, again, David, if you don't understand how it makes money, if somebody says, give me money today, tomorrow I bring twice the amount, you ask them to work, because they must show you how to create value. You must understand how the business makes money.
From one anonymous attendee, on skilling the youth, have you heard about Challenges Uganda? They provide SMEs with fresh graduates as interns. Would you like to engage with them?
Certainly, I haven't heard of them, but certainly we've got a lot of number of young people who would benefit from some skills. We are already putting some of our staff through, CPA for these skills, but definitely the other skills, soft skills and things, who can benefit. So I'd like definitely to get a contact for that.
Okay. Another anonymous attendee, he or she says, even with all the trust in others, what are the practical safeguards beyond governance?
Your eyes and ears. If you're in the business and you've got a board and you've got reports and you've got controls and you're attentive, ultimately your last line of defense is your eyes and ears. You see somebody, a young person who's making money on the side, they quickly change their lifestyle, their dress will change, they'll bring a new kind of parking lot. Don't ignore those signs.
Okay, another anonymous attendee. He says, you say you hardly consulted with accountants before starting businesses. Why?
No, I was just making a reference to, we do obviously have some of my partners are actually accountants, members of this great institution. But I'm saying generally when you see business plans that people make, the assumptions are too bullish, as if there was no accountant in the room to do sensitivity analysis. Suddenly, you cannot have a business, there's no business that will go very far if you ignore the accountant's advice.
Thank you. Another question from John. Why are the elite hesitant in venturing into business? What advice do you give?
Yeah. Why are they? I don't know if it's a truism, there is general, I think, what's the word? When you go to school and get a job and it pays you enough to pay your bills, it's very tempting, and I know it because I was in employment. It's very tempting to do the safe things to keep your job, and until you try it, it will always be scary. But most of my friends are people I know who are, I guess elite means they are employed. Many of them are really, really thinking about starting a business. And I'm encouraging as many as can, because at the end of the day, when you look at the wealth of nations, it's not built by governments, it's built by business. And therefore, if you want to start a business, I would encourage that you study, especially the business that one you understand, and two, you have passion for. So the elite, yes, I can understand the hesitation. It's the risk aversion that we get through our training, because these things no one taught us in school, how to start a business.
Okay. Another anonymous attendee says, what do you think the optimal capital structure, mix in brackets, is in Uganda, especially as most Ugandans are challenged in saving to invest?
That's a very interesting question. Like I said, there's not enough. However much you raise, it will not be enough for your enterprise. So it's a case of saying, what do you want to do? Scope it. Be honest with yourself. Find the money you have. Go to your friends, get more money, and raise enough money to take you roughly 3 years, because that's how long it will take you maybe to make money. There's not an optimal structure. But I would say your capital as a startup is going to come from your savings, from your family, from your friends. And it will not be enough. But you can't wait for enough capital to start.
Okay. James Mpalanyi asks, why is it that some successful businesses are owned by people with questionable education history, unlike the businesses owned by the educated people?
That's a great question. I think it is in the context of Uganda mostly, and these emerging markets. When people have no education and have no choice, they have nothing to lose. They're going to try it.
Okay.
Education sort of immunizes us from trying, because you can have a job and you can look after your family. Our less educated friends don't have that luxury, so they start, and because they give it everything they've got, they are there with the wife and the children. They look after them. They're more careful with money. They're not going to live a luxurious life beyond their means. So over time, they're able to accumulate capital. Whereas education seems to give us a taste, an expensive taste that is higher than our income, generally speaking. But of course, that is in a context of Uganda. It possibly has to do with our history of the Idi Amin era of people trying all sorts of different things. But I think it is not what will take us to multi-billion-dollar businesses. It is got us where we are now with a few capitalists with some money. But I think to do the big things, to look at our neighbors in Kenya, we must get the educated people to do structured businesses that are scalable.
Thank you. Michael Tujetwena, once again, he says formalizing businesses, although important, comes with enormous regulatory requirements, which tend to be costly at the startups, and a serious squeeze on the liquidity of the business, i.e. taxes. How would you balance between formalizing your business and minimizing the negative impact in the initial years?
I would say if a business can't survive if it pays its tax, then it's not a business. Don't start it. Or if it can't pay its employees, if it can't pay its bills, then somebody is subsidizing. Most times you, the entrepreneur, you're not looking after yourself or the government because you're not paying the tax. It will not be there for long. So my recommendation is again, for an audience like yourselves, I wouldn't see why, if you want to start a business, you start without the structures, without the formalizations.
Tom Mpaji, his is just a comment. He says, I dare say, when your first business fails, don't give up. Use it as a learning process, and there are good lessons learned. Most successful businesses have lost money in their first businesses. Success might not come from the first business. Thank you, Tom. James Mpalanyi says, why is it that some successful businesses, oh, sorry, we've already handled that. Let me go back to slido.com. A question from Mark. Where do you draw the line between resilience and when to call it quits? When it's time to pull the plug?
When it is clear that you got it wrong. And get it wrong is a humbling experience. Most times we take longer to accept, but the tail signs will be there. You know, you're always in the negative from the cash flow. The offtake is not what you thought it would be. The margins are not there. There's nothing that will give you the comfort that you're turning the corner. Okay, and the earlier the better, because if you're in that position and you're burning money, it is only a question of time.
Thank you. Anonymous attendee, do you think that sometimes it is better a founder director leaves the business for it to prosper?
At the right time, yes. There's a time when it is too early, and there's a time when the founding director becomes a liability. I think for every business, the founders have to judge what that is. But if you leave too early, then it is your passion, it is your money, it is your dream. Then how sure are you that it's going to be executed the way you wanted it? If you become a liability and you're not able to take it to the next level again, you know, it's only in your best interest.
Thank you. Alan asks, with over 20 startups in a period of less than 20 years, how patient should I be with a particular business before I take on another?
I already answered that question, I think. If the business is not working, you leave it. Otherwise, if it is, I think the other part of that question is what I'd call the entrepreneur's bag. Entrepreneurs have a way of keep doing different businesses. If it is succeeding, Alan, in that case, it's very important that you stay with that one business until it is really, really scaled before you start another one. And otherwise, you're going to spread yourself too thin. That's the other side, if it is successful. If it is not, then I've already answered in the earlier question.
Olive says, Isaac, great insights. Would you encourage a 13-year-old to do business? I have a daughter who is passionate in business. If okay, how do I nurture her?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer. I honestly, a 13-year-old should be in school. If the 13-year-old is the parents are in the business, it would be nice to walk with them around so that they can see and get interested. But how much business can you teach a 13-year-old? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But I see, especially with our Asian friends, the youngsters come and do their homework in the shop, and in a way they learn. If that is the trade of the parents, that could be one way. But I would hesitate to put my 13-year-old in my trucks business at the moment, other than to go and see how a truck is repaired, how it looks like.
Thank you. Another question from anonymous attendee. I'm a full-time employee. How do I ensure success of the business when I cannot be fully present because of my job?
That's a question I answered also in the presentation. In the businesses where we lost money or we didn't succeed, we started those businesses and were looking after, we were still employed, and we left hired labor to 100% chase the dream. It is not their dream, they only want a paycheck. Chances are, if you've invested in a business and you're still employed, make sure your partner is there. If both of you are, none of you is willing to stake their lives and go and run it, I would say don't invest.
Okay. We have another insight from Tom Mpaji. He says, also avoiding drawing money from the business to another venture or for personal expenditures before the business matures can lead to failure that could have been avoided. The business expenditures and personal expenditures should be clearly separated and accounted for properly and separately. Thank you, Tom. Members, I think this marks the end of our question and answer session. Isaac, once again, I would like to thank you for this enriching discussion that you've given us and the presentation. Thank you so much. Over there.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, audience.
Thank you.
Over there, due to COVID-19, our usual culture is to get those things, those goodies, hand them over to you, but due to social distancing, I can't bring them to you. So as you walk out, you pick them. If you can allow, someone else will help you carry them to your car. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And over to you, Director of Ceremonies.
Thank you, Isaac, for that wonderful presentation. Business is interesting, and I love your thoughts. There's something interesting about trust, especially for us Christians. God calls upon us many times to love one another. But if you notice in the Bible, it doesn't say we trust each other, but it calls upon us to love each other. So I think in business, keep your eyes open, trust no one, keep your eyes open all the time. Otherwise, you'll be taken for a ride, but you can love them. Not everyone you love, you can do business with. There's another quote attributable to Mbire. He also doesn't know the original owner of the quote, but it says, be careful of a naked man who gives you a shirt. In short, someone cannot give you what they don't have. Then one driver says, if you're in control, then you're not driving fast enough. So if you're in control, what do I mean by control? You're earning your salary every month, so you're not venturing out enough, so you're not trying out new things. So you have to keep on pushing. That's why when Isaac says he has done 20 businesses, 20 have failed, I think about 6 are working out well. That's also another interesting perspective. And Sudhir one time said on the question of employees in business, he gives jobs to people who have been unemployed for about 2-3 years. He says one who has looked for a job for many years can appreciate the value of a job and stick to it. So these are small things that we can think about. I would like to thank our chairperson, Pamela, for a job well done. You have managed the time so well that we have 30 spare minutes. We should have been having a wrap up at 4. I don't know if the president is ready online. Or as he says, he's not the president, it's our 8th president.
I am already.
But we have a little Trump situation, which we are trying to resolve.
I am here.
Not exactly the same facts, but it's something like that. He has to continue in office for the time being. We have had a very wonderful 3 days. I think day one, our theme was effective leadership in crisis times, basically around what is happening now. Then yesterday we had trust and health. I hope we all learned something and we are better than we came. The diet bit was the most interesting. Normally after those health talk shows, you go and watch and everyone is speaking greens, but the next day we are back where we began. So let's try to keep the knowledge and use it of a sustainable period of time. And today we are on personal finance and enterprise. So we have gone through land transactions. I saw all of us very keen, especially the CPA land brokers who are many here. Then planning for retirement. You know something about retirement? At times our bodies even retire before we retire. So you find a 45-year-old looking like 60 years. Biologically you have retired, but you're young actually. So I think as we plan to retire, let's also watch our health so that we are strong enough. Then of course our last session has just ended on business opportunities and challenges for startups. It's rare that you get it right the first time. And most successful businesses are after trying so many times until you get what works for you. Copy and paste, of course, is a no-no, although it's very common in our economy. If I started making Rolex here today, when you come back after a week, there will be 30 of us lined up to the end there. And the talk around this town will be, there's money in Rolex. There are about 30 people making it. But when you go back and analyze, those businesses are actually not making money. So I thank you for being a good audience. Let's also give a round of applause to the Events Management Committee for putting up this seminar in very difficult times. COVID happened, COVID caught us unawares. I think no one had predicted this in 100 years. Maybe 5 years from now, our children, our grandchildren will ask, what were those things people used to wear in the old days around your faces? So COVID happened, and despite COVID, we have, I think, done very well with the seminar. The attendance online has been great. We have so many people online, and it's a good thing. So let's clap for the team at ICPAU. I think we should be having a wrap up by the president. I don't know if he's ready.
I am online. I'm ready. If you are ready, Timothy.
Isaac and Pamela, let me free you.
Nsereko, why do I first? I'm ready for the brief.
President, please, you can stand up and stretch. You've been seated a while. The volume shift is never easy.
Not connecting.
I saw the food that is listing, the sleep came, the head snowed a bit. You shook and woke up.
Me, I'm ready online. I can speak now.
But it's been great having you. And don't forget, we have dinner at 7 p.m. Someone was playing the turn of the music yesterday.
I can
we shall add you 2 songs today so that you don't turn off the music early.
Oh,
but I hope the other substances Michael Tonga talked about were available despite the music being off.
I want to use the washroom first, and it will take me a few minutes.
At least those ones are not turned off. But please, even as you continue socializing, let's observe the SOPs as guided by the Minister of Health. Very important to control the spread of COVID. Somehow we have not been so hit, but also we are praying nation. So maybe our prayers have helped us in a way, but let's not get reckless. with our lives. We are waiting for our 8th president.
I am
come.
available.
And it's certainly not going to be the 9th president. The 9th president is experiencing a difficult birth, but he will be born soon. He will be born soon. Maybe the team can first remind us it's Christmas with something small as we wait for him to arrive. Thank you.
Good and get back.
I don't want to hurry the big man. So let's give him time to sun his ties, calm, yeah, and take up his space. Thank you. Let's have a commercial break. Let me invite the chairman, events management.
Thank you, Timothy. David, I actually never knew that Timothy can get tired because, because whatever activity he takes on, he does it with a lot of vigor and with longevity. I want to beg your indulgence for about between 5 and 10 minutes. The president is in the area and is making his way here, but he has requested that we give him a few more minutes so that he can come and be with us here and talk to us mouth to ear and mouth to face for those of us who are here. Timothy, the exact thing you said, the finding a group of Rolex makers in one line. Sometimes it works, other times it doesn't work because like business is strange. Like if you took a spare parts shop to Nkrumah Road and you said, I'm here alone, nobody would buy. But every other door has a stationery shop and somehow they congregate. But then others, especially when they try to undercut each other, the whole line of businesses collapse. I don't know, business has its own hidden challenges. You know, being president of the ICPAU has certain disadvantages because if it was another president, all of us would have stood up to welcome him. So, you know, some presidencies have, or at least clapped, because you're welcome, Mr. President. Yeah, we've been waiting anxiously to see you and hear from you. Isukenjira, you know, I've got to. I like the borderline of your mask and your tie from the 1960s and 1980s, not the 2000s. Mr. President, you're welcome. Please have your people.
Thank you very much, MCs, Timothy and David.
I've been following the presentation from office, and on my way here, I was following Mr. Nsereko as he spoke to us. At the purpose that I should be here by 4, because that was the closing time. But Pamela, I think the chair of the session did very well in terms of making sure that we keep time. Let me start my address by thanking all of you for being here, and I'd like to move that those of us online and those of us here spend 1 minute clapping for ourselves. Maybe a minute is too high, but just to clap for ourselves and congratulating ourselves upon a very successful the 25th seminar. You know, one time the Atacama lizard was coming up from the tree, and it looked down and saw a number of people in the garden and asked itself what it could do to attract their attention. And so it said, if I jump from where I am down there, those people who are digging will stop digging and they will congratulate me. Even if there's nobody who has clapped for me, I will thank myself. So it started thanking itself for a very good job that has been done. I'd like to thank all of you for being here, for the over 700 people that have been following online who have attended these sessions. I think this is something that is remarkable, that we have been about 1,000 people here in this seminar this year. And this year is a very important year, like I said at the beginning remarks, because it is our 25th time since we started the annual seminars in 1995. And for me, that's something that I should do, really congratulate the Institute. It just shows that the Institute is resilient and that the structures and systems are working and that individuals do not move, but systems and structures are working to move us to another level. I take special recognition of the second president of the Institute, David Opiokelo. Please, would you stand up? I also take special recognition of seventh president, Proprietor, at least online I could see him. I don't know whether he's here. He has stepped out. Proprietor is in the field trying to look for votes in Ndorwa East to represent the people of Ndorwa East. And he's so far doing very well because he was able to go through the NRM primaries. And going through NRM primaries in itself is an achievement. We want to congratulate him. And when you talk to him and give him support and courage, support him, not only in rhetoric, but also maybe put some resources to his disposal to be able to come through as a member of parliament. There are many more other CPAs that are contesting. I know of Daniel Mwase, I know of Daniel Badevie. I know of many others that are trying to get into parliament. It's good for us as a profession that people who understand who we are and who understand the ideals of how society should be run are the people that should sit at the table where those decisions are made. I'd like to thank the Secretariat, the Institute Secretariat, the staff of the Secretariat. I normally do this whether in times of science or in terms of arts. Bless you, and thank you for tirelessly moving the Institute as it should be moved. These people do a very, very big job. You could as well say we pay them, but I don't think the pay is enough to motivate them to do what they do for the benefit of the Institute. This seminar has covered a number of things, but I want to highlight very importantly to us some things that we should embrace. Technology as the first one. Like I said in the opening remarks, when we talked about the digital disruption last year, we didn't know that COVID would bring it so fast the way it has brought it. But look at the beauty that there is in what has happened, that we are able to be more flexible with our time. we are able to congregate in larger numbers than we were when we were physically present. In fact, we're beginning to think about whether this venue is sufficient to host the annual seminar anymore because of the numbers. But look at what technology has done. And it's a sign that we should embrace, we in our practices, we in our profession, we should embrace technology and embrace the tools of new ways of working, like almost all the presenters have said in this particular seminar. Most importantly, the advisory that comes with the challenges of COVID-19, that professional accountants need to be able to do in terms of getting boards to deliver on their strategy. I think that's very important for us. We've had a number of things that we've gone through, including the innovations that we saw the other day, yesterday, I think, from NSSF, including the opportunities in oil, as Dr. Eric Alhanga brought them out, including the challenges, even though we are trained to be risk averse, like Mr. Nsereko has been saying, I think we need to find a place where our relevance does not diminish as a result of both the pandemic and the new innovations in technology that are coming about. I would like to thank you so much for being here, and to thank your families as well for allowing you to be here. I know many of you would have sought permission, and that permission is about to expire. But I want to thank you so much, and again, in the spirit of togetherness and in the spirit of building our institute, I would like to ask that we congregate together this evening for the gala dinner, as it were, and as the program directors will give it to us. If I say more than this, I'll be insensitive. It's the fact that you have been here the whole afternoon, some of you accepting the points of the presenters endlessly, and others trying as much as possible to remain awake. Congratulations, and thank you very much for a job well done on each of your parts. Over to you, Mr. MC. I had the MC mention about, maybe I should also clarify that, mention about the birth of the 9th president. That birth is going to take place for sure sooner than we think about it. We just better keep our hands crossed, because it's going to happen. Thank you, our President CPA, Frederick, for whom I was campaign manager. Yeah, it's good to know that we are about to deliver that difficult baby sooner than expected. So that's a great thing. To the audience, a very big thank you. See you at dinner. I think I shouldn't talk so much after the president, otherwise I won't be adding value. But see you at dinner, which is at 7. And for those who are heading back immediately, please save journey back home. It was a pleasure having you in Entebbe. Entebbe is a lovely place, especially if you're a fish. There's a big lake. But I've been reminded just before the dinner, we have some tea that is ready. So please, like the locals say, go and eat your money, take some tea. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening, and see you over dinner. Thank you.